I am a unique snowflake, and so are you. We're all unique. We all have different symptoms, and sometimes those symptoms can be subtle and sneaky. They can come and go, and sometimes these subtle symptoms can show up months or even years before diagnosis. Hello, my dear friends, and welcome. I'm glad you're here. In an article I came across recently, I read a new term. MS has a prodromal phase, a period where people can have various non-specific symptoms before the typical characteristics of MS begin. In this article, they state that patients with MS had a higher than average number of medical appointments with doctors of various specialties for up to 5 years before their diagnosis. 5 years! These patients saw a variety of doctors. They saw urologists, ophthalmologists, orthopedists, psychiatrists, and other specialists. In an article from the journal Neurology, they referenced the study done on medical codes used on patients in the 5 years before diagnosis, and they found 43 codes that were recorded more frequently, and a higher proportion of these were suggestive of demyelinating events or other neurologic diagnoses. Sometimes our symptoms are mild, and sometimes they can come and go. The remitting of symptoms, if you will. There are various symptoms that could be indicators of MS, but, and this is a big but, if you have these symptoms, it does not mean that you have MS. It just means that you have symptoms. Sometimes these symptoms can be related to other conditions. MS can be very difficult to diagnose, as there's no one test to show it's MS. Doctors rule out other conditions and diseases and need to use a combination of MRIs, medical history, symptoms, and patterns of when they occur. Sometimes it can take a long time. I'll talk more about tracking symptoms later in the video. Some of these subtle and intermittent symptoms could be blurry or double vision. Eyes are said to be an extension of the brain and are sometimes referred to as the only part of the brain that can be seen directly. In MS, we can develop lesions in our brain, in our spinal column, or in our retinas, the nerves behind our eyes. People with MS can lose vision, that's usually temporary, but they can also experience blurred or double vision that can be intermittent. Numbness or patchy numbness. Sometimes we can lose feeling or sensation in part of the body for a period of time when we're having a flare, a relapse, or when we get ill or overheated or overstressed. It can be very subtle, so subtle that we may not recognize it. After my diagnosis, during an exam, they were using a metal instrument on my back to test sensation, and I had less sensation on the left. It was a shock to me. I didn't even realize I had lost sensation there until they compared the left to the right. Sneaky. Weakness. This is another tricky one. We may have a day or two or a week or two where we just feel a bit off, not as strong as we normally do. Or perhaps we don't have the stamina that we typically do, or maybe a leg or an arm is not feeling as strong as it usually does. Dizziness. This is another symptom that we may not connect to MS, or at least we didn't prior to diagnosis. We may brush it off and think, oh, I must be dehydrated, or I didn't eat enough today. And then there's dizziness's cousin, balance problems. We may stumble or bump into things, and again, we might explain it away. Oh, these new shoes, they're hard to walk in. Or I need to pay better attention to where I'm going. Balance problems are very common with MS, and they may come and go. Bowel and bladder urgency. For those of us who are a bit older, it's easy to blame this one on aging, especially the women. Am I right, ladies? Oh, it's because of menopause, or because I have X number of children. Or we may blame it on the food we ate. I better watch that spicy food. It went right through me. Or, oh, too much fried food this weekend. I'm feeling a bit backed up. Unusual sensations. Sometimes MS symptoms can include itching, crawling bug sensations, or tightness. Yeah, this one is one of the less pleasant and odd ones. One of my symptoms is tightness around my left thigh. It feels like I'm wearing a compression stocking just on that area of my leg. Again, it can come and go with heat, illness, exercise, or for unknown reasons. Speech difficulties. When I had my first discernible relapse in 2006, I remember I mispronounced some words, not because I didn't know how to pronounce them, but because I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, or my tongue and lips didn't know how to form the correct sound. It was fleeting, so I didn't think much of it back then. Depression. This one is definitely one of the trickier ones. Depression can be an illness unto itself, a side effect of some medications, but it's also a distinct symptom of MS. It's not caused because we're upset about having MS. It is its own symptom of MS, and it can show up before diagnosis. Prickling pain. This is one of my least favorites. During my second relapse, I developed nerve damage that affected the bottom of my left foot. I have permanent sensation loss and numbness, but when I exercise hard, like when I take a Zumba class, I develop prickly pain on the bottom of my foot. It feels like there are blisters forming. I have even taken off my sneaker and sock to look for blisters, but there's never any there. Does this happen to any of you? Let me know in the comments below. Wet or cold sensations. Sometimes we can feel like a part of our body is wet or it gets cool like water has touched us. Some people have to wear gloves or socks and slippers because their extremities feel so cold. Fatigue. 80% of people with MS have it. It's hard to define and quantify. It is hard to see and hard to explain. It can come and go, and it's also one of the leading causes of people with MS leaving the workforce. Cog fog. This is another sneaky one. What was I saying? What's that word? The thingy, that utensil thing that we use to turn the TV on and off. Again, it's another hard one to define and quantify. We may be tempted to brush it off. Oh, I must be getting older, or I'm distracted, or menopause brain. These subtle symptoms that come and go are sometimes easy to brush off. Who has time to be sick? Who has time to go to the doctor for every little thing? Sometimes these symptoms can be hard to define. We may have difficulties with a simple task, but we can't quite put our finger on it. For instance, my typing is off. I used to type fast and accurate, but now my left hand doesn't work as well as my right hand. And even years later, I have a hard time really defining it. Is it weakness, numbness, sensation loss, slower reaction time, all of the above? I definitely have more typos than I used to. Side note, speech-to-text software is a really great tool. Because these symptoms can be subtle or vague, we often go undiagnosed for years. Sometimes it's hard for us to explain to our doctors what's happening, and sometimes we cancel appointments because the symptom went away. And sometimes the symptoms are so subtle that we ignore them or try to explain them away. So, what are we to do about these subtle symptoms? First, we need to track them. There are many apps to help track symptoms. There are some for generic symptom tracking, and there are some that are specific to MS. I will put links to 2 articles below so you can check them out. In these apps, we can track various symptoms, how we're feeling, and our habits. Some have great scales and charting abilities too. And a great thing is that they're right there on our phones, so we can quickly jot down a symptom when it occurs. If you're not sure about using an app, use a simple spreadsheet where you jot down the date, the symptom, and some information like if it was hot, you were exercising, stressed, or something else. Having a log of symptoms can be very helpful to our doctors and helpful to us too. We may start to notice trends that can help us better manage our MS. So, what are some of the things we can do to help these subtle, sneaky symptoms? Living as healthy as we can is important when we have MS or other chronic illnesses. Everything we consume and everything we do can either help us or harm us. There are 4 things that I do to help keep my body in tip-top shape to help manage my symptoms. Diet, whole food, plant-based. exercise, cardio, and strength training regularly, sleep, good quality and good quantity, and kindness in the forms of mindfulness and compassion to keep the stress hormones at bay. Doing these things has helped me to live well with my MS since 2006. I have also recently developed a course on these 4 pillars. If you'd like to see if this course might be a good fit for you, see the link in the description below to schedule a call with me. Lastly, we need to talk with our doctors when we're having symptoms. There are medical interventions such as physical therapy and medications that can help. I help manage my muscle spasms with a medication called baclofen. This helps me to get the sleep I need and helps me when I need to sit for extended periods of time, like when I'm on a long car ride or when I take a long flight. Do you have other subtle symptoms associated with your MS? Let me know about them in the comments below. Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoy videos like this, please give it a like, the thumbs up under the video. This helps this channel. And if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss upcoming videos. Until next time, be well.